All right. So you mentioned earlier that, you may have made some poor decisions that landed some pretty heavy consequences for you. Maybe you talk about sort of being a young adult.
Yeah. Being a young adult, honestly, I would say I was spiraling, not in a good way. I was frustrated, and I think I really wanted to create something. Growing up, I always played basketball in different leagues, and I don't know why. I just one day hung it up. I really don't know why. I was hanging out with a lot of the wrong kind of folk, smoking a lot of cigarettes, like doing just anything I could do to get in trouble. I kind of wanted to push the limit. Okay. And I don't know why that was. And I think just being creatively frustrated and who I was at that point in my life, I think it's common for a lot of people that are coming of age where they got this stuff going on at home or these insecurities or whatnot, and they act up in a certain way because they can't express themselves or channel their energy into anything productive. So I felt like I got caught up in that quite a bit. Made some bad decisions, to be frank, but was thankful enough to get pulled out of it.
So let's talk about that. So you mentioned creatively frustrated. Mm-hmm. So what was in there? What was kind of boiling up that you felt you were restricted in doing?
Right. For me at the time, I always knew I really liked music. I don't have a musical bone in my body. I thought I wanted to draw or do graffiti or things of that sort. Mm-hmm. Wasn't good enough at that. And, when it came to, it was funny, I took a photography class in high school, and I ended up really liking it because I'm just like, dude, this is something I could do. It's more of a trained talent than a raw or natural talent. I
gotcha.
believe,
there's a skill set involved, and
right.
There's some fundamentals about it. I've learned that in the last probably 2 years, kind of having to be more media savvy. By no way savvy, but trying to get there and starting to really respect. There's a talent level that comes with it, but there's a high level skill set, technical skill set that comes along with it there's this creative piece to it. Right. So there's this technology meets technical meets art and meets creative that I'm always, and people coming from all these different angles. It's been really interesting to kind of see the different things that people are capable of or how their minds work around things like photography, and videography and things like that. So, all right. So you take a class and you're like, dude, I think this is it.
Actually, after that class, I didn't get good grades in that class. And I remember
par for the course though,
yeah,
right?
I remember the teacher at the time. I don't know if it was because I acted up a lot in that class and I would just, make a fool out of myself or just be disruptive. I always got bad grades in that class. So I'm like, man, maybe I suck at this too. And what ended up happening is my aunt got a DSLR for taking family photos. And obviously she had no clue how to use it. So she goes, oh,
it's a lot of cameras.
Yeah. Why don't you teach me? So I was like, okay, let me borrow this for a couple of weeks. And she never really got it back until, I got one of my own finally, after a lot of begging. And that was the real turning point for me of hey, I'm not hanging out with anybody anymore. I stopped hanging out with a lot of people because on the weekends I would rather hop on BART, go to the city and go take some photos. And at the time I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just knew I enjoyed it.
So can I ask you about this class? So where was the class offered? Is this something that was offered, say, in high school?
In high school.
Okay. Yeah. So is this interesting because all that stuff's been pulled out of the schools now, more or less, unless you're.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, unless you're. Well, that might be a huge blanket statement. There's a 10-year-old, right, and that stepdaughter, and she's experiencing music right now and some amount of drama, and so it's not really fair. But she's also attached to a sort of a grouping of schools that is heavy music and drama focused. So that might have something to do with it. But when I was in school, they had shut down the libraries. I mean, the quote unquote media center was only open a couple of days a week and for an hour a day. Right. And then woodshop was one class per day. You either got it or you didn't. Drafting, huge drafting room. I remember being in, and the guy was only teaching 2 classes a day, beginning and advanced drafting. Yeah. Auto shop was gone.
Yeah. I really wanted to do auto
Me too.
shop.
Metals.
Yeah.
They shut down the metal shop.
Yeah.
It was literally all happening at that time. It's funding. And we know how, I'll just be right up front about saying it. I mean, the education system, public education here system in California, I am want to be a supporter of it. And my kids have gone through it. I have an older daughter who's been through it. And I have to tell you, and the data is there to support this. It's the worst.
It's awful.
It's the worst in the country in so many ways. I mean, we are absolutely at the top of the game when it comes to being horrible with our public education system. Right. And there's too many things to talk about there. So I'll get off that soapbox. But going back to the photography class, like we might have had that. We might have, and it might have been attached to like the yearbook committee or something like that. Like, and it was probably some teacher who was working like overtime, not maybe getting paid a lot of extra, maybe a stipend or whatever, to kind of put that thing together, who was passionate about photography and was trying to help the kids out. I don't know, but my point is kids aren't given exposure to these things unless they run across an aunt who has a camera she doesn't know how to use, right? And takes it upon themselves to go out and do it. So I find it interesting that was the pathway through school. Okay, so all the stuff that you're struggling with in school, you finally find something that clicks with you, despite the grades. You found a new passion.
I did.
Where does that take you?
So I went to community college for a couple of years, like a lot of folks locally, which was kind of not a great decision because anybody can get into some college, right? And the advice I'd give to people is, if you're going to be in debt anyway, just take it and run, right? Like if you're trying to do something,
get through it.
Yeah, just take whatever offer you get, take it and run. You'll have a good time. But I was at community college for a couple of years, and I wasn't doing too hot there either. And I was simply like, so the thing is I've always been really book smart. I've always read a lot. But when it came to actually applying myself, I just wasn't going to class. And I was just screwing off, taking a lot of photos, like just not attending, hanging out with friends, like just blowing an opportunity.
Tough to be successful when you're doing that.
Yeah. So I had to do what they call, one day I like woke up because I had gotten kicked out of community college. And
that takes work, man.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And I felt, like awful. Like, I'm just like, like I got like my mom yelling at me, like, and, part of it too is I'm like, I want to get out of the situation I'm in, being in the house. Like, I'm not like gelling well here. And I just kind of shot myself in the foot on that, completely. And, I ended up doing an academic renewal. My grades for that next year, I took extra units. I was like literally just nailing every class, like getting A's on A's on A's. But because of the academic renewal, I could not be eligible to apply to the UC or state school system in California because they don't recognize it. So I ended up going to the University of Iowa to pursue a double degree in cinematic arts and business administration.
Wow.
That's what I ended up doing.
And how long were you out there for?
2 years.
Okay, so let's talk about the transition from San Ramon, California, right, living at home, to where is the University of Iowa? I don't even know.
Iowa City. It's pretty easy to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iowa City. Was the Hawkeyes?
That is the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, so it's the Hawkeyes, right? Okay. So is there culture shock? I gotta imagine there's culture shock.
So
I mean, we just went from like the Indian family living in San Ramon, right, going to predominantly all white school, to now moving to Iowa City, right. Which I'm chuckling about it because while I haven't been to Iowa City, I've been through Iowa, I've been through through Indiana, through Ohio, through Illinois. It's all white unless you're in the major metropolitan areas. I don't even know if that even exists in Iowa. So
they have Des Moines, which to say major metropolitan is a stretch. Yeah. But
so talk about that, man. Talk about that as a young Indian guy going to Iowa under these circumstances.
Dude, I did not at the moment I was just like, when I was applying, I was looking at like top film schools and like that have a business program. And of course, like UCLA, USC pops up, and I'm like, well, dude, even though I've done well the last couple of years, that's a wash. Like, you got to have like perfect grades to get in there.
Yeah, not happening.
And I didn't know what it looked like when I signed the paper. I had no clue what to expect.
You'd never been there.
No.
You just like, I'm going to apply. If I get in, I'm taking it and I'm running.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I get off the plane, and the plane landed in the closest airport is called Cedar Rapids, which is about half an hour out. And like, as a dinky airport, not like a street light once like you get into the taxi. And I get there for orientation, and I'm like, dude, like, you know, the campus starts to come up and like there's lights and I'm like, okay, like there's some sort of
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But when does it set in, man? Like when is it like, what have I done?
I think orientation, because when you get in at night, like they had like some buildings, like not like tall skyscrapers, but like, you know, kind of skyscraper-esque. And I was like, oh, you know, they have a whole downtown here, like not bad. The next day I realized it's like 2-3 blocks.
That's it. The whole town is the university, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. And that's where I was like, dude, like my next 2 years, my life is going to exist in these 2-3 blocks. And that's exactly what happened. Like a lot of repetition. I met some good friends there, but you know, that too was challenging because everybody there is like very small town mindset and, you know, they don't understand you don't understand them, but, made an effort to. And, some of my friends that I did meet there, friends that I'm going to have for life.
Lifelong friends.
Yeah.
That's generally the case with college. One of the interesting things about the Midwest there is there's so many colleges and everybody is going to college. And I mean, again, another blanket statement there, but that's like, there's so much opportunity to go to college. Most kids, young people are going to college there in some way, and they have these opportunities to get into schools like Iowa, University of Iowa. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the point of that is it's like, that's what you do. And you've come from a different background. So these kids are probably coming right out of high school. Like you've spent a couple of years living some life, making some mistakes, learning some lessons or whatever. And you're going into with maybe a little bit of a different perspective also with the culture shock. So how did this wind up, man? I mean, so was this 4 years of school there or?
Just 2 years of school since I came from community college. Okay. You know, it is a 4-year college. So most of the people I met were around my age, because I met them through class, or like one of my best friends was originally my neighbor. It's kind of hilarious in retrospect. My rent to live alone was like $550 and everybody thought that was like ridiculously expensive. And I remember looking at it, I was like, wow, that's dirt cheap. Like
it cost me that much to fill up my truck with gas.
But you know, I got there and the experience, it was strange because I wanted art school and I wanted the cinema program to be something that it wasn't.
Oh, gotcha. So you're a little disillusioned.
Yeah, it was super pretentious, and I got called like mainstream a lot, got a lot of like criticism, and quite honestly, when I started to see like some of the teachers work there and realized that like, you know, I'm not trying to be king shit at Turd Island over.
But you were a disappointment.
Yeah.
You're disappointed.
I wanted to learn from people that were really good, and
interesting.
I felt like I was
sold a bag of goods.
I felt like I was better, especially when it came to photography in a lot of ways at that time. And I wasn't very good back then. And that kind of fucks with your head when you're trying to learn from people that are better than you.
Yeah. I think I get it. You know, you're always striving to look. I've had people sit over in that chair. One of them was a world-class athlete, and he knew very early on, if I want to be the best in the world, I have to go train with the best in the world, and I'll do whatever I have to go do that. And if that means I got to go live on somebody's couch, you know, and be living in Russia, literally, or, you know, some other country, then I'll do that to train and get better. I'm willing to put that in. And he knew very quickly a couple of times this is not the right fit for me and moved on. That said, I guess getting back to the and getting to the point as we get into the photography and the art, what was the end game? I mean, obviously it's to graduate, get your degree, get your papers, get out of there and leave, as you said, like having learned some things from some talented people and so take these things. But what were you thinking? Like, what was the end game?
So I had to shift that. Originally I thought I would get in there and I would learn a lot because I was always doing photo, but video was so foreign to me, and there was nobody to really teach me the proper way to, you know, like make a short film or how do you put together a team to work on something together. And everybody was at so different skill sets. Like some people were really good and some people were not. The people that were really good wanted to work siloed. So for me, I had to switch up my end game to just be like, dude, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get, you know, my degrees. I'm going to go home and, I'm just going to use, you know, the survival skills and life skills I've just learned, like being away, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to start making stuff. And I don't know what that is yet, you know.
Still on the journey.
Yeah. I came back and it ended up a lot around music. I tried to make it a point to like every day I would come home. I was after work, after whatever time I had, I would be like, I'm going to shoot sunset every day. And I would go somewhere. If it was the same spot twice, I was just trying to beat myself the day before on what I'd created.
So take photos of the sunset.
Take photos of the sunset. Wherever I could find time, I would be shooting. I was so antisocial. Did not talk, did not respond to text a lot of times. And was just like, I felt like I lost 2 years of creating being out there. I learned other things, when it came to life skills, when it came to like business classes were good. But when it came to film, I felt like I lost my creative edge for 2 years.
Wow. So you're just going out going, I just gotta take pictures. I just gotta take more pictures. And were you trying to find it again, or was it, no, I need to make up for the time that I've lost?
It was making up for the time.
Okay, so you saw the passion. It wasn't like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like you were focused.
Yeah. It was more like, dude, I haven't that's one of the things we take for granted in the Bay Area, right? It's so beautiful. And I hadn't been around that kind of like, not saying there's nowhere beautiful in Iowa. Like I definitely did get some cool photos, but like just being trapped in those, 3-4 blocks of college town, it was like suffocating.
There's not much in Iowa. It's a lot of open flat land. It's farming and industrial. I mean, that's what you get there. It's mostly farming. So it's all corn and rice and soybeans, and it's miles and miles and miles of that.
Yeah. And I just felt like, like I came back and I look at other people's work and I'm like, wow, like the editing game is like transforming, like, and I'm not there.
Wow.
And I don't know how to do this anymore. Okay. Like I felt like so behind.
So you mentioned the music piece and trying to kind of get into the music. When you say that, what do you mean? Like you were getting into the music piece?
Right. That came, I would say, a year later after I moved back. Is like one of the things I've always been involved in, like the hip hop community, mainly around the Bay Area.
Okay. And that is very underrated, I think. I mean, when people think that, they think like East Coast, West Coast, and what LA and
right.
But there's so much talent that has come out of here and that exists here in the Bay Area. So maybe talk about that and how you got into it.
For me, when I had originally hit up, there's this website called The Thizzler, which hosts all like Bay Area rappers, and it's a kind of a corny website. There's a lot of trash on there too. Okay. And I found this artist named Ian Kelly, and I thought he was dope. And I hit him up. I sent him an email. I found his email, and I'm like, hey, dude, do you want to take some photos? Like would love to go take some photos of you. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. We met up for dinner. Had a good conversation. He's like one of my good friends today. He's gone on to do really cool things. He was like the theme song for today's, or this year's Madden, like on the soundtrack. God, his list of accomplishments goes on forever.
That's so cool.
He was really, really dope to me, and he was a real artist. And through that, I started going to his shows. He started taking me to other people's shows, and before you know it, I had, this wide range of
clients.
Yeah, like super cool people to work with, and we really like got to build a lot of things together. And I could just spitball ideas off them and be like, "Hey, I want to go shoot here. I want to go shoot there. Is anybody free? Is anybody interested?" And people would just be like, "Yeah."